But my thing is, does she believe that the Bible, when the Bible says, "Thou shall not suffer a witch to live," does she believe in that?
Thank you for calling in. I don't want to turn this into. I don't want to turn this into something different. I mean, clearly, a person who says that they're a witch has different practices from the Bible. So I mean,
you know what? Actually, I want to just like add on to that because there are a lot of Christian witches in the world. That is actually a thing. And the thing I think that's important to remember is everyone is going to look at this really, really differently. I don't identify as Christian. I have no problem with Christians. I know a lot of Christian folks who practice magic. A lot. And then, you know, if we want to boil it down, what is prayer but a form of magic? We could go there. But to me, a saint, like the way that I look at what a saint is, will probably be very different than the way that someone who is maybe like a devout Catholic might look at what a saint is.
Yeah, that's why I was asking what.
Within my worldview, like that's cool. We can all have a different idea of what that is.
Okay.
Clearly, our previous caller felt a little bit differently to that, which I fully respect. It's not my own view.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody has an opinion. That's fine, and they're welcome to call in. You know, that's fine. Can a practicing witch also be a practicing Christian?
In my opinion, yeah, honestly. And like some of the most epic magic stores I've been to have been Christian magic stores.
Talk to, please.
Believe it or not.
please.
I don't know if there's anyone listening in from Chicago, but there is a really awesome like Greek Orthodox candle store in Chicago that is awesome. Like I stumbled upon it just by accident, and there was tons of statues, candles that they made in-house. They had everything blessed. You know, they were doing like what I would consider like the full magic spectrum.
The whole gambit, the entire gambit.
They were doing the whole thing. And, you know, I talked to the ladies in there. They're super, super Christian. But like I could recognize 100% what they were doing. Like I wouldn't necessarily use the word witch in their presence, but we would understand each other in terms of the mechanics of what was going on. So, they would just call it prayer.
So without giving labels, you recognize, I think you said Greek Orthodox? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you recognize it to be similar in practice in terms of what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is very interesting.
I bought so much stuff.
Very interesting.
I would love to go back. And it's like we might not believe the same thing. Like I might not believe the same thing that they do.
Sure.
But to me, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like we still had some common ground on how, like the tools that we use, how we conceive of those tools to work.
So what was the difference?
What's the difference? Yeah. For them, they seemed a lot more interested in God and more explicitly Christian understandings of what they were doing. But ultimately, like to me, there was like quite a big deal of overlap, and we were able to have quite a straightforward conversation with each other about what each candle that they were selling would do, the process for making the candle, how to bless it, how to do this, how to do that. Like we were on the same page.
That is so interesting. That is so interesting.
I think so. That's why I think it's not quite so cut and dry. Like when some folks, and I don't want to speak for everybody,
sure,
but when some people will say witchcraft is incompatible with Christianity, or all Christians think witchcraft is evil, that's actually factually incorrect. And it just is, you know, like different people are going to have very, very different interpretations of all of this stuff and different ways of relating to it.
You had mentioned students. Do you have any students that are practicing Christians?
Oh, actually, this is quite interesting. Yeah. So one of my students in particular recently practices Buddhism, also as a Catholic, and is also interested in witchcraft. And there's quite a few students who do come from a Christian background or do come from a Catholic background and are interested in how to mix these things in a way that feels good to them, that still honors that tradition that maybe they grew up in, but is also expansive to, you know, welcome in these new practices that they're getting some interest in. It's like if you look at, let's say, Catholic Church, it's pretty witchy in there. You got statues everywhere, you got candles, you got some incense.
Well, it seems similar to you said Greek Orthodox. So the Catholic and the Greek Orthodox, I don't think there's a vast difference, maybe language, but not a vast difference in what they do. So yeah, I could see that. I mean, I see some documentaries with Haitian voodoo when they pop up, you know, in the algorithm, and you see it, and it you know, you see a lot of the Catholic idols and statues, and you see crosses. Let me ask you that. Let me ask you that. So in the movies, a crucifix chases vampires, and you know, it chases things. In your realm, in your world, what is a cross, or what does a cross do? What does it mean to you?
It's a symbol. Like, it doesn't really have a particular meaning to me, to be honest with you. It's like I did not grow up Christian. It's just, it's not really my thing. I do have some in my home because I think they're beautiful works of art, and I got them when I was traveling at like really, really cool old 1,000-year-old churches. Like I do have like holy water from a church somewhere far. Like I do, it's in my fridge. You know, like I do have that stuff because I see the power in it. And like sometimes the holy water from the 1,000-year-old church is going to be way more potent than something you get at the New Age store.
Sabrina,
like, it just is a thing.
You're blowing my mind here, Sabrina. You're blowing my mind.
It's not so black and white as people think it is.
Apparently so. So you have some crosses, and the crosses don't impede upon whatever it is that you have to do. It doesn't impede.
No.
You have holy water from churches 1,000 years ago and so on, and that doesn't. Do you use some of that water in things that you do?
I have, yeah, for sure. I keep it for special occasions.
And it works.
Of course. It's very potent stuff. Have you got holy water from somewhere?
No.
So if you want to talk about feeling vibes,
yeah,
like some intense vibes. For sure, some intense vibes.
Really?
Holy water. It depending on the church, yeah. Like I love going to churches. It's beautiful places of magic as far as I'm concerned.
This is interesting. Wow. Enlightening, completely enlightening. Completely enlightening. So this kind of rolls right into I guess where I wanted to go. Well, you know what? Before we go there, God, the concept of God within your realm. You know, you mentioned Buddhist. There's different gods across the globe, different things. God. Christians have a God. There's gods. There's a God in the Bible, et cetera, et cetera. What is the concept of God to you?
To me personally?
Within witchcraft, I guess, or within your realm, how it works. Because you've clearly said that it's different, so...
Yeah, it really it depends who you ask, to be honest.
Okay.
Like I do know some people who practice witchcraft and will petition God for things. 100%, it happens for sure.
Yeah.
For me, this is going to offend people for sure, but whatever. I just see God as a big fancy spirit. Like that's how I conceive of that. Like that might be offensive to folks, like if they're really intense about the Bible in a really literalist way. But you know, for me, the way I see things, I think there's room for everyone's relationship to that. Like maybe what some people call God, maybe I relate to that in a different way. I don't know. Like maybe we're just all putting different labels on the same color crayon. Who knows? Like it's one of those things. But for me, it's just a fancy spirit.
Well, you know, the show is just that. It's opinions. It's everybody's views. I'm not here to sell my view on anything. I don't actually even speak about my views ever on the shows. I want to hear your views. That's why you're on the show, and that's what makes it. We all, take a piece of information from whatever it may, and we begin to put the puzzle together to see, truth, as it's said. Interesting that you said you view God as a big, fancy spirit. Right? A big, fancy spirit. Now, I don't know if that was intentional or if that's, you literally see a big, fancy spirit. But
I'm wearing Prada.
So, I mean, it is something you distinguish as separate, and it's fancy, and it's sort of like you said, the saints that you work with is a fancy term as well. So it's something pedestaled, so to speak.
So that's actually a great question. So everyone, again, is going to relate to this differently. But for me, I don't generally like to conceive of what I do as worship. I conceive of it as working with.
Okay.
So I'm interested in having like more equitable relationships with the spirits that I work with. For other people, they are more interested in having that worship type of experience, like where they're bowing to things and acknowledging their insignificance and smallness and petitioning what they conceive of as like a higher power to help them do something. For me, I prefer a bit more of an egalitarian type of vibe. That's just my own preference. Everyone is going to do it a bit differently, but that has worked for me up until this point. So